deer are planted. All right, guys.
Welcome to the Deer Shop Podcast, presented by Siman Brothers Outdoors and the Leaky John Boat Company.
He went and watched a movie that has a $200 million production budget, and then the next thing he watched was our video on YouTube that has a $0 production budget.
This is the first buck I've shot in over 10 years.
Your track job was the first fun track job. That kind of like, I think part of my life was influenced by that night.
Then you miss him 3 times with a rifle at 70 yards on video for the whole world to see.
That's what Caleb did. 5 years ago, we couldn't shoot a deer at 100 yards with a slug gun. Now you're shooting turkeys at 100 yards with a shotgun.
Joey takes
The shop is closing up.
Make sure he takes all his right antlers. You can't leave anything.
All right, guys. Deer Shop Podcast, episode 152, Fall Food Plots, Al Tomechko, Ethan, myself, and Al in the studio. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Doing great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I wanted to do basically a fall food plot extravaganza podcast because right now we are in the grindstone on fall food plots. If yours isn't in the ground or in the process of getting in the ground or planned out pretty well right now, you're going to be a little bit behind the 8 ball, but it was time to do one. I wanted an expert, and you're local and kind of close by-ish.
Yeah.
And it's just a perfect storm and perfect time to get you on.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. I love talking soils and food plots and all things deer, so I'm ready for it.
Today is going to be an all-day work. So the moment we are done with this podcast, I'm hitting the woods and just putting plots in all day long. 3 different farms.
Nice.
3 different farms today.
Yeah.
I got planned. So it's going to be a lot. Al was on episode 134. So if you want to listen to any of the previous stuff after listening to this one, we talked, I can't even remember exactly what we talked about. Most of it, I think, was just bullshit. I don't think we actually got to what we really wanted to talk about much.
No, I know we didn't get into the drone. We were talking about getting into the drone survey I had done about deer densities. And I mean, I don't even know what we talked about, but
when we finish off our food plot talk today, I will bring up the drone survey. We can hit that before you go today because we've been trying to get to it.
Yeah.
I think that was almost originally what we brought you in for.
I think so.
But I was like, oh, well, let's shift a little bit. Let's do podcasts or let's do plotting. Oh, looks like we're getting mowed, Ethan.
Yep.
The baler just went by. All right.
So
the alfalfa's getting hit. I think we'll find out here soon.
There's one cam.
There might be a couple cameras that are about to get run over, but they'll see.
He'll notice.
He knows.
Hopefully.
That's actually good. I'm excited about that. That's perfect timing. That'll give us what? A month?
Yeah, 1 month.
That'll give us 1 month of growth before season. Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
It's all alfalfa back there. So he's going to mow 13 acres of alfalfa.
13 to 14.
Oh, it's beautiful. We'll talk about that in a minute too, because that has been an incredible addition to our farm that we haven't had in a long time, and it changed the landscape completely. But this is our first real year with the alfalfa, so we'll see how much I love it come December and all that.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to start by thanking everyone who listens, comments, and follows. The only way our podcast really gets seen in the streaming services, so that your Apple, your Spotify, wherever you're listening to in your car, the only way it gets seen is if you guys like or follow the podcast and then leave comments and reviews. Otherwise, it's not a medium that gets a lot of random exposure. You're not going to have it pop up unless more people are liking and watching it. We obviously always enjoy our YouTube audience. That's where we interact the most with people. It's our biggest audience, so it makes the most sense. But if you're on the streaming services, please just do whatever it is that your individual streaming service does to notify you that our podcast is coming up. That being said, hunting media right now, full swing, absolutely full swing. All the shows are releasing their 2026 lineup. I've kind of decided I'm only watching 4 this year. Grit, Chasing November, and The Breaking Point are all currently releasing like this week, and last week they all started releasing almost on a daily basis. And then I'm also going to catch THP as always, and I'll probably watch Lee Ellis's videos, Seek One, when they pop up. But those are like the 4 or 5 that I'm going to pay attention to. We had a podcast a couple of weeks ago where me and Isaac were asking for like some suggestions, and I checked out the ones that the audience suggested, and nothing really stuck.
Yeah.
So I'm going to stick with what I know. What do you get into YouTube wise?
Man, I watch a lot of Midwest whitetail stuff.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
Chasing November,
Yep.
and then I actually really enjoy a lot of the Drury Brothers videos. So they're like 16 to 22 minutes long.
Yep.
And then, of course, I love Heartland Bowhunter.
I guess I just forgot about Heartland Bowhunter because to me they're still on TV. They are still on TV. I actually turned it on yesterday at work for like 5 minutes. It was actually a pretty good episode. One of Ty Easley's his kid's first archery buck, which is pretty cool. But
yeah,
I think of Heartland Bowhunter as a TV show. I forget that they are on the streaming stuff now.
Yeah, so
I enjoy watching them.
I enjoy them a lot. I like a lot of their stuff that I've liked more, and I like that the juries have done more. It kind of relates to today, but like showing the process, I almost enjoy like that as much as the hunting.
Correct.
Or like if they tie it in, like, hey, here we're going to show you how we transform this farm, and then they like fast forward to the fall, and they'll show like one hunt.
Yep.
But they show like, okay, we went in and did bedding cuts, and we put in food plots, and here's our access. And Heartland Bowhunter has done more and more of that. They have like a habitat series.
Yeah.
So like running chainsaws, doing prescribed fire, and stuff like that. And I've really enjoyed those series. And then of course, once season gets going, it'll be fun to, well, I guess it'll be last year's stuff that they videoed that they're releasing this year, but they start releasing it soon. And I enjoy those also.
That's very, so like Chasing November, the Midwest Whitetail, that stuff is very similar to what we do. And I do, like now that you bring that stuff up, I do check in and catch some of that stuff. There's another series, Whitetail Properties has some decent stuff every once in a while on like farm management like that. It doesn't seem to gather a lot of steam in the circles that we run into now, because a lot of the people a lot of the social media circles that we run into are actually mobile hunter type guys, and we're not super mobile hunter type guys, but that is what dominates the hunting social media that I follow. I guess I'm just not in the right groups for farm management stuff. It's all, Cell Film Hunters, Ohio Whitetail. Some of this stuff is it's all media. It's all media that's geared towards like the mobile guy, a lot of public land type stuff. That's why grit is huge with a lot of these guys. A lot of people like to show grit from latitude. But so those guys aren't really talking much about Heartland Bowhunter jury and stuff, but we do catch that stuff, and we obviously have a very similar style to like a Midwest Whitetail.
Yeah.
And I like the cinematography and the yearly chase of the same deer and all of that kind of stuff. We obviously love that. Do jury sell, and who they sell to? I heard on Hunter the other day the jury sold last year.
I have no idea.
But I'm assuming they just sold to the kids. You know what I mean? Like I'm assuming maybe Mark and Terry got out and like left it to Matt.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Daughter. But yeah, the Hunter said something about jury sold, and I don't know who took it, unless like Mossy Oak bought it. Are they Mossy Oak or Realtree?
I think they do Mossy Oak.
Yeah, I think like maybe Mossy Oak might have bought it or something like that. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, they released one like yesterday, and they're all on there. I mean, so
yeah,
I think they just sold the media piece of it, but they're still like the brand.
Yeah, I think they may have sold like the brand and the rights, but I do believe that like Mark and Terry are staying on as like hosts.
Yeah, that's cool.
Kind of like, because I believe Meat Eater sold too a couple years ago, and like Steve Rennell is still controlling what they do, but like he doesn't technically own it. I don't think. I think it's one of those like take your money up front, but then still run the company for a while.
Oh, sure.
He was able to lock in that forever payment, and then.
Yeah, a lot of times that stuff, like if there's enough money involved, you'll get PE firms back, and then they'll buy and roll them all together, and then and you can maintain either a portion of equity that keeps you in charge, or maybe you're less than equity share, but they're still keeping you on as the CEO or whatever.
Right.
But they are backing you with funds, and then they're probably going to buy like your 3 competitors and roll it all up under an umbrella. And
yeah, because there's no way you could have like some of these shows just won't work without the figureheads, right?
Right.
Drury Outdoors is not going to work with one of those guys being there. Meat Eater's not going to work with Steve Rennell not being there. Yes, they have tons of other people that are on their channels and on their shows, and they each have their there's a Meat Eater has an umbrella, a massive umbrella of different products that work, but without Steve there to lead the ship, it probably wouldn't work. How can you have Drury Outdoors with no jury?
Right.
Midwest Whitetail is the only one I know of that's been able to really transition off of who started it to a new crowd, and it took a while.
Oh yeah.
There was some years in there where things weren't great per se, and they're in a decent spot now. It's still not as good as when Bill was in charge.
I agree.
But
I follow
but it is
he
good,
does. That was another good one to add. I follow him all year round.
Yeah, I think almost everyone forgets that they do, because his channel's literally Bill Winky.
Yeah.
And then you catch all their stuff. I remember we had some podcasts where we like gave him a little bit of shit for not having the same quality of a show as Midwest Whitetail was. But then as it's gone on, I actually kind of enjoy it now. Like he's just filming with a GoPro, and like him and his daughter and their cameraman. What's the cameraman's name?
I forget that.
Younger kid.
Yeah.
But their show is pretty decent. It's gotten more interesting the more they've done to that farm. At first it was like, well, here's our farm. planting apple trees today.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he's showing putting apple trees in. It was like, Bill, this ain't the same. But now that they have been there 3 or 4 years and they're killing deer and the habitat's all different, I've been tuning in.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too because I think would admit that it was a struggle. So I thought it was really relatable. Like, hey, I got this big farm, and everyone thinks like, oh, you got a 640 acre farm. This is going to just be easy in Iowa. And he's like, this is a lot different from a genetics perspective, from a huntability perspective than his southern Iowa farm.
He said that one of the things I remember him saying specifically, the timber held so much forage the way it was open, maybe previously logged, whatever, between the oaks and the native browse, that the deer literally have not eaten some of his soybeans. Like, he has soybean food plots, and the deer just don't use them. Mm-hmm. He's like, at my old farm, in here, if I had a 5-acre soybean food plot, I've tried to grow those before, and they don't even grow because the deer eat them down so far. In his old farm, he could guarantee what the deer were going to be feeding on at all times. In his new farm, he's like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
He's like, for some reason, the deer just never came out in the field.
Yeah.
Found his shed 36 yards into the woods, and I never got a picture of him in the field. Like, he's like, and I don't understand he's like, I don't know how to do about that, but I want to figure it out.
Yeah.
Which is cool,
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. If anybody can do it, I bet on him.
And he's killed a couple nice bucks already on that farm. I don't remember exactly what they were named. Some of the guys that watch the show religiously would know, but I know he has killed a couple bucks there. Jordan killed her first archery buck, I think, last year.
I think so.
I remember. And I know they found some super good sheds that they were excited about. I like watching the shed hunting episodes. Midwest Whitetail does a good one.
Yep.
Here. I watch Bill's. The shed hunting stuff. Some people find that extremely boring, but I like to see where people find them.
Yeah.
I want, like, if you can visually see, as long as they're telling the truth, if you can visually see where they're picking up these antlers, it can help you when you're in the woods.
Oh, for sure.
You got an open hillside and 3 pine trees on the south-facing slope over there. It's like, we're going to go check that out right now. You can pick things up.
Yeah, my buddy Danny is a really good shed hunter. Do you know Danny Warner?
I do.
Yeah.
He's got a
Danny's,
channel.
Warner Hunts.
Warner Hunt, Ohio.
Yeah.
He's a great guy, really good deer hunter, and but I mean,
I've been wanting to get him on this.
You should. He puts the miles on.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, my buddy Greg's like that too. Like, I'll shed hunt. Like, we'll get down to the farm. We'll walk through the woods. Like, I know some general areas where I'll find sheds pretty consistently from year to year. But like, after a couple hours, I'm like, all right, that was fun. Like, my buddy Greg and like Danny, like, they're just gone all day. All day.
I've been known to do that.
Yeah, and it's like, I respect that. I get like bored of it. Like, I'll start being like, all right, I'm going to start getting into chainsaw. I want to start working on habitat or whatever. But yeah, Danny's a really good shed hunter. And actually, he told me out of all the videos he does, that the shed hunting videos, I think, get the most like traction.
He does his do very well. His shed hunting videos do very well, and he always takes his big fishing trips up to like Chautauqua.
Yes,
and, like, dumps a GoPro underneath the water, and like, I know he gets like crazy views on that kind of stuff. So it's just niche people who find these channels and watch them.
His property is next to some famous people from Wayne County.
Yeah, so there's his neighbors are famous.
Oh, interesting.
We'll leave that out. I mean, they're hunters, but we'll tell you off air. But yeah, Ethan, anything for you to add to the hunting media you've been picking up on?
I've been watching Latitude here and there. I don't really watch a lot of hunting content. Seek One is Ohio Hunt I'll watch, and then Aaron, pretty much be it. Aaron Olson, Next Step Outdoors.
I watch Aaron's stuff too.
I do catch it.
But that's pretty much it. Anything local, anything that pertains to me, but I don't like to watch.
Ethan, while we're with you there, Kentucky.
Yep, 2 weeks we'll be hunting.
We'll be hunting in 2 weeks in Kentucky. I can't believe that.
That's crazy.
It feels like fall out there today.
It is. It's perfect.
It feels very good.
They mowed. We have big changes since our last podcast and since our last. You didn't see it. People didn't see a ton of video yet of Kentucky because it'll be in our season premiere. But when we were down there, I know in our podcast we talked about how like it's just so overgrown, and there's areas where the grass is 4, 5, 6 feet tall, and
3-inch trees growing up in the middle of the field.
They mowed.
I think they mowed everything.
We'll find out. I don't know if they mowed through those trees or not, but you're going to go down next week sometime?
Yeah, I think Thursday.
Go down Thursday?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, mowing happened. The deer, since they have mowed, the spots have kind of gone a little bit more dormant than before, because we cleared out some spots, threw down some bait, had our cell cameras out, and they were ripping, especially mine. But my stand area, there was 3 shooter bucks, one that I'm very, very interested in, just he was there 4 or 5 times every evening before it got dark. I mean, they were just crushing it. They mowed everything, exposed all that clover and whatever's underneath there. And it's been a little bit spread out, but there are new bucks.
Yeah,
that are
coming
showing
in
up, and just a lot of deer moving, and we're excited. They probably mowed. I mean, how many acres of field total is down there? Did you ever tab?
Probably 45
acres. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was all overgrown the last 2 seasons. They hadn't done anything with it. 2 seasons of just overgrown fields, and I was able to kill my deer in one of those overgrown fields because they were just bedding, feeding, and moving through it. They mowed it, so it's going to change things up, but probably for the better. It'll be a little bit more huntable, I think, now. Especially if we can see where some clover starts popping up. You'll be able to get some more cameras out. It's going to change things up for the better, I believe, down in Kentucky. But we were very surprised to see that. All of a sudden, there's a tractor, 2 years, nothing. All of a sudden, a tractor with a brush hog, a large commercial-sized brush hog, which is
roughly 46 acres.
Dang. So, yeah, pretty exciting. 2 weeks. We'll be there.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm going to go dump some more food, move some cameras around, see what's going on in different places.
Yeah, I'll have to add a couple more. We'll have to get some more cells down there for sure now, especially that we know it's going to be a lot more huntable. It might hurt our access a bit. So I was kind of enjoying, like, the fact that there was a lot of, we'll see if they mowed the trees in the middle. If they mowed those saplings, there was an area of like 10 foot tall. They almost looked, to me, they looked like cottonwoods, like young cottonwoods.
Silver barked.
With huge leaves on them. A couple like 5 or 6 acre areas that were left, and they were even there before when they had done the crops. So if they left those and the deer are bedding in there, high stem count stuff, we should be okay. If they did mow all of that, we might still be okay because they're not going to be bedding it all out in the fields.
No.
But when it was 4, 5, 6 foot high grasses the last couple of years, you could sneak along those edges.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to see you, Or if they do, they can't quite make out what you are, and you were able to sneak pretty good. But it's going to change things up a little bit, but probably for the better. So Ethan will be down there soon. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it to help you, but
the guy driving the tractor was awesome because he avoided our cell cam.
He saw him for sure. Yeah. He mowed right around him. So thank you to Unknown Farmer, man.
Every 10 minutes, it was just getting closer and closer and closer. And then we got the last video and he went around it and then kept on going.
Yeah, very nice of him. Let's get to what we were here for today. Let's talk about some food plots.
It's that time of year. I just got mine planted. I guess that'd have been about a week ago.
You got good rain yesterday then.
We got a lot of good rain. So I put in, about 3 days ago, I put in a little hidey hole. But we got all at our main farm, we got everything planted about a week and a half ago, and we have just been slammed with rain.
Yeah.
It was actually getting to the point where
you worried about too much rain?
We had already gotten like 5.5 inches of rain. If you've seen, a lot of Southern Ohio has been getting slammed with rain. I mean, there was a death in Perry County, called in the National Guard. I mean, because of the flooding. I mean, it's been really crazy. We were lucky in the sense we didn't get quite that much, but the ground was wet where I actually backed, I have a no-till drill and I backed the pressure off a little bit because I'm like, I just didn't want to bury the seed too deep.
Right.
So we actually backed off the pressure a little bit, and then we got everything planted. And I mean, we caught rain that night. The next day, it's like rain like every other day. It's about as good as you could plan it. And I'm really happy in that scenario because I have the equipment to do it in that terrain. I'm really happy with the choice of using the no-till drill because with the amount of rain and how fast it's come down, had I tilled all that ground on some of these pipeline easements and stuff, you're talking 25 degree slope.
Wash it all.
Yeah, it all been in the Ohio River. There's no doubt. So, and I think all the seed would have been gone too. I mean, the seed and topsoil. So that really has worked out well for us. We'll go in, we'll terminate the standing crop either with an herbicide or a homemade roller crimper or a mower or whatever. Then we just drill right through it.
Yeah.
And that's been a really for our larger seed. So we have a 17-way fall mix. And that's what I plan on the majority of the farm. So I think we did 15 or 17 acres we did with the drill. And then I'll do another 5 to 7 that I just do with broadcasting. Smaller, like clover plots that I'm always trying to add some diversity to and things like that. So we've caught the rain. So now we just have to hope everything works out good and some good deer start showing up. Because I'm way behind on camera placement too.
I'm not behind on camera placement. I'm a little bit behind on food plots. We don't have any seed in the ground yet, but we will today. Yesterday at work, we had a storm. It rained throughout the day. Some of it was a little bit heavy, but last night at about 3:30 a.m., we got hit with a cell at work, and it rained so hard and it hailed. Like there was piles of hail in the driveway where the rain had like pushed it off to the side of the parking lot at work.
Wow.
It hailed and rained crazy last night. One of the hardest rains I've ever heard against a window in my life. It woke everyone up. It was insanely hard rain, but I don't think it hit here at all. That particular storm stayed north, didn't hit here, so we didn't get a good washout, which is good. The soil is plenty wet today. It's almost going to act like it is being rained on.
Oh, sure.
Because the soil is just so wet. I think it'll be a little on the muddy side when we do our planting, but hopefully everything sticks. We'll talk about methods here in a minute. But for anyone who didn't listen to episode 134, where Al's on the first time and introduced himself, I'll give you a couple minutes here where you can at least give a minute or so to give your spiel real quick so everyone understands who we're working with today.
Yeah, I mean, Albert, I'm the owner with my buddy Jared of Vitalize Seed Company. I've been managing our family property for the last almost 20 years. I think it's 17 years. I've been hunting my whole life and started actually making my own mixes years ago and writing blogs on the old QDMA forums and stuff. And who would have thunk that we're almost in 5 years into owning a seed company and, helping everybody from this year. We've really been blessed. We started doing a lot more with row crop farmers for cover crops to flower farming. I'll be doing I'm a guest speaker for a flower farming conference all about soil. So it's not as much about soil and cover crops, understanding soil tests, that type of thing. And of course we do a ton in the food plot space too. So we've really tried to diversify kind of our offering. We've added amendments, and that's me. I manage my farm in, I guess, Eastern Ohio, and have for 20 years. We're up to about 400 acres now, so really, really blessed, and I couldn't do it without a good group of buddies who help me, and, they get to shoot some bucks, and we do a lot of work, and we really enjoy it together, kind of like what you all have here with your good crew, and that's really important.
Yeah, I think I tell everyone, and we talk about this on the podcast often, if we didn't have the system in place, the four of us brothers with each of us their own groups of friends that have all kind of become one group of friends in this good circle of deer hunters that kind of all think somewhat similar and all like to do the same kind of thing. If that didn't exist, what we're doing right now wouldn't exist. I want to be recording a podcast and have all this equipment and all these deer mounted up in here and all this stuff that we have if it wasn't such an enjoyable experience with everyone.
Yeah.
If I was a solo, there's a lot of solo rangers out there on YouTube and social media. I just don't know if I would be that guy. I probably would have a different hobby if all my friends didn't also enjoy doing exactly what we're doing here now. And
oh, absolutely.
It's a lifestyle that I do love. What do you know about lavender farms? Because I saw on Facebook we're getting one like a couple miles down the street. I don't know if you plant in the fall or the spring, but there is a lavender farm going in down the street from us here in sometime in the next couple months.
I don't know a ton about it. I do know that it's super profitable because I actually had a customer of mine and friend in Wisconsin try to start one. But I think he found out that for where he was located, it was just too cold.
Okay.
It didn't overwinter, if I remember correctly. But he had done a whole bunch of research, and he was like, if you have a 5-acre patch of this lavender and you harvest so much, like he was like, I can pay off the planting in year one, and then after that, it'll be like straight profit. And the numbers, I don't remember them specifically, but they were like enticing. Like it was a very I guess they use it a lot in, like they'll dry it out. They do like all sorts of different stuff with it.
Right.
But I don't know like the NPK needs or anything like that of a lavender farm.
Gotcha. I saw on social media yesterday that there's a big one going in, so I was like, that's different. That's something unique, but
yeah,
I guess kind of cool. So I wonder if the deer like to eat lavender flowers. They might have a problem with that in that area. It'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Where I wanted to start today is, and it's the question we get asked the most because people know we do food plots and they see us posting about our food plots all the time. So everyone always asks me, hey, I got XYZ space of either open land or a back corner of a field that doesn't get planted or a clearing in the woods and, that someone left and nothing's been going on there. I have this space and I want to put a food plot in this fall. What should I do? If you were getting asked that by somebody, how would you steer them where would you start with that person? What direction would you tell them to go?
Yeah, I mean, I get that question obviously a lot also. And first thing I do tell people is that if you don't have enough sunlight, 6 hours a day, you're really going to be limited on what grows. Now, you might be okay, and you might say, you know what, I'm going to back off my expectations here. I just want a little something green. But realistically, if you want to grow, big giant turnips like you see on television. You do have to have sunlight, right? Yeah. Plants have to have the ability to photosynthesis or to complete photosynthesis. So that's number one where I start. It's like I have a lot of people who contact us for a spring summer mix, and it has soybeans and sunflowers and sorghum and Sudan and 12 other species, something like that. And it does phenomenal. But I have guys call me and I'm like, listen, I would love to sell you seed, but it's not going to work in a pine thicket. Like that just is not going to grow there. So the first thing I tell people is you have to have good sunlight. Then I ask them like, well, do you want a perennial or do you want an annual? And then normally I explain what that is. So perennial coming back every year, annual, you plant it for that year, and then it might have a 3 to 6, 8 month life cycle typically. And then you're going to have to replant it at some point. Right. And then I'd like a perennial. Well, then you have these options. You're probably looking at like a perennial clover mix, going to have some whites, some reds, things like that, alfalfa. And then you have to make sure you understand if you are doing a perennial mix, what is the maintenance for that? And what is your openness as a grower to do that? So I tell people, are you okay with using herbicide? Because there's a lot of folks out there who will tell me, like, I do not want to use it. Right. Well, perennial crops are going to be a lot more difficult to maintain in the long run. 3, 5, 7 years is what you could ideally get out of some of these clover patches, clover, chicory, alfalfa. But you probably are going to have to use herbicide to keep it that way. Because even with mowing, you can set back a lot of broadleafs, and then you go, well, you're going to do it with weed whip. But the grass is going to become a problem at some point. Yep. So if they're totally against using herbicide, then I say, okay, well, what are you okay with? Do you have a tiller? And we kind of shoot it that way. If they're okay with using herbicide and they say, well, I just want an annual and I have a small plot, it gets sunlight, maybe it's an oil opening. That's a pretty common one. There'll be a 1/4 acre oil well opening. If you're okay with using herbicide, you can spray with glyphosate, let it dry, and seed right into it that day. Now, if you have the time to drag it or run it over with the 4-wheeler, you have a cultipacker, you have a Packer Max, which my buddy Lincoln owns that company. You fill them up with water, and those are pretty cool for guys who do a lot of plots all over the place because they're light. You can drain them, put them in your truck. That's always going to help. I mean, that's always going to help push that seed down. The biggest mistake I see in that situation is guys don't read the label on the herbicides. Yeah. So they'll spray and they think, oh, I bought this at the Tractor Supply, or I bought this at, the Home Depot or whatever, and it says Roundup. Well, no, not all Roundup's created equal. There's commercial, there's wholesale. So you have to read the label because some of the ones they're selling now, for example, at Home Depot,
you can't find glyphosate.
It won't have glyphosate in it.
No, it's something else.
And it's like a Mazapir and I think 2,4-D. And those have residuals in the soil. Yep. So you could go spend a whole bunch of money on XYZ seed. It doesn't matter. If you spray those, you might get a little bit of germ, but it's going to heavily reduce your seeding population.
When you talk about glyphosate, you're talking about true 41% gly. Okay.
You got to just look at that. It's just active ingredient, 41%. They do make like a 58%. But as long as that's the only active ingredient in there, and most of them come pre-mixed with a surfactant. Which is just going to help reduce the surface tension so that when you spray, you get better leaf coverage. Yeah. So glyphosate or glufosinate, which is very popular now because most of the soybeans are Liberty. So glufosinate's the generic of Liberty. So those are both contact herbicides, no soil residual. Right. So I just hit on that.
Once it dries, it's safe.
Correct. You are not going to have any impact on germination. Correct. I say that because so many guys will use like my dad or my grandpa was a farmer, and a really traditional farming burn down would be like 2 quarts of glyphosate, and I think it's like a quart of 2,4-D per acre. It's super efficient.
2,4-D's for the broadleafs,
like pigweed, things like that. Sometimes glyphosate or like mare's tail, even if it has some. Now people are saying glufosinate does really good against some of those crops in ag settings, at least so far. But
till it becomes resistant.
Right. Eventually it probably will have, genetics are pretty impressive. But when you're doing those things, you don't, like 2,4-D has a residual. And I've had people call me and go, I just drilled 10 acres and I burned down the day of, but I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not sure. And sometimes they'll call back and go, I had no issue. Right. Other times they're like, I guess I'm replanting. Yeah. So read the label. If you're okay with that, it's that easy. Spray the area, let it dry, seed into it with whatever seed you decide. Make sure you use the right rate. The other thing I tell people a lot
People think more is better. Brassicas, it's terrible.
Right. You'll choke yourself out.
It'll look good for the first 3 weeks.
Yep.
And then it'll stay that size.
Yep. You'll start getting yellowing. You'll getting purpling. Of course, starting with a soil test before we're in the middle of rushing to plant can help quite a bit. Now you're like here, you're in a good area that just like naturally, I mean, there's a lot of farm around. So like you could make the judgment of like these soils are probably pretty decent here.
Right.
But in a lot of places they're not. And
an oil well head, like you're talking about,
right.
An oil well clear out, you're going to get you might get some really rough numbers if you actually test that soil.
Absolutely.
Considering what they did there and then what's been around it for the last 50 years, trees.
Right.
Is it pine trees? Is it regular trees? It's
exactly.
It's not going to be fertile soil.
Right. So that's where.
More than likely.
That's a good thing to do is a soil test. And, in really throwing down the seed at the right rate is important. Like you said, more is not always better. And the other thing I tell people is if you have, let's just pretend you have an acre that you want to plant. I try to get a half acre down on that acre if I'm doing like a broadcast spreader, right? So we're just assuming the regular guy, you're doing a broadcast spreader on your chest or on your ATV, open it up just enough to get a half acre covered. Then start on the other end and do it again.
Right.
And that way you get total coverage.
Correct.
And you'll get even emergence because the worst thing you want to do is get halfway through and go, I put an acre of seed on half an acre, and now I'm out of seed.
Isaac did that last year on the food plot where I shot my buck. He accidentally had it wide open, didn't realize it. Got like one pass down on just one side of the food plot, and he's empty, and he's like, oh, shit.
It was really very small seeds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
it happens to everyone.
Those are very common mistakes. I mean, very common mistakes. I have a no-till drill, and I even had this spring. I thought I still had it because I looked in, there was still seed in the seed cups. I'm like, I'm good. Everything emerged. I realized, I was out of seed. And like a quarter of this field, you could just see where it totally ran out of seed. I'm like, I look like an idiot. So those type of things do happen, but if you can slow down a little bit, you'll have better success making sure you get, good coverage.
Right. Yep. The drill... A drill is probably the next investment we'll make farm wise here because we don't have a drill yet. We haven't used one. We have a corn planter that we've used, an old John Deere corn planter.
Oh, those are nice though.
Some of that stuff, but we haven't got into the drilling stuff yet. But eventually would because a lot of people think the better the tilling, getting the soil all worked up is going to help you in the food plot world. Not realizing what that does to the dormant seeds and the weeds that are in your food plot. You think you got a perfectly good till, everything looks beautiful, and 3 weeks later you show up and you're like, holy shit, the weeds because of that.
Tillage has its pros and cons. I always say, like at Vitalize Seed, we try to meet the grower where they are. Mm-hmm. So I try to explain to people that yes, tillage can work. That the debate is not really does tillage work. It's more about for how long is it sustainable with, because there's no arguing that when you till, you're releasing carbon.
Right.
You're pumping air into the soil. You're breaking soil aggregation. Now, you're also getting really rapid organic matter mineralizations, it's called, which means essentially that's fertilizer. Yeah. Microbes are eating that organic matter. It's releasing these nutrients, which is why a lot of times people say, man, it seems like no-till's slower. And I'm like, it is. Because you're not getting this rapid organic matter mineralization. But what you're doing is you're getting a slower start typically. It normally catches up, and then you also are maintaining that organic matter and actually building upon it through root exudation and things. Now, there's some nuance there. If everything walks off in a deer's rumen, everything that you grow for year after year after year, you're probably going to have to put some fertility back, be it in organic or a synthetic form. Yeah. But those are some things to consider. Like if you're going to till, there's other things. You can look up conservation tillage, which is a good thing where you basically, if you look behind you with the disc or the tiller, say 60, 70% is still covered with grass. So you don't pulverize the soil. Right. You just kind of open it up or, common in farming.
Basically,
I'm sure you guys see it.
Aerating is what you would
Yeah. You might see guys do strip tilling. Mm-hmm. That's another common one. Well, you're strip tilling and you're leaving these rows of green. Well, what does that do? Well, it reduces organic matter mineralization. You get all these benefits. You also can get like P and K into the root zone because you're actually tilling it in versus just broadcasting on top. So there's pros and cons to every decision. The one pro of tillage, especially in fall crops, is you normally don't have to rely on herbicide. So that's a big thing I see a lot on social media, and I don't really add to the groups too much anymore because it's just like it doesn't go anywhere. It's not like a conversation like we're having. It's like this guy comments and then 3 people else say the same thing. And it's like, but nobody's having a discussion.
Not like the forum days.
No. I mean, that's why, like I said the last time, I'm still active on a couple forums, and I really enjoy that because it does seem more conversational. But with that, a lot of guys will say, go spray, kill everything, and then go in there and till. And to your point, you're like, well, you killed the surface weeds, but now you're just tilling. So if you're going to till, just use that, save your money, and just use that as your physical termination method. And this has been proven. I mean, don't take my word. Look up Rodale Institute. It's an organic institute, been around since like the late 40s, maybe post-World War II. And they use no herbicide. It's an organic farm. So they do no-till, roller crimpers, flail mowers for termination of cover crops. Then they go into production. And then every, I don't know exact, but just to say every 5 years, they'll go, all right, the weeds are getting bad. They'll go in there and do a tillage, like a reset tillage, and they go right back into no-till. So I tell people that because there's a lot of different ways to skin that cat, that you don't have to get too followed up, but we can all reduce herbicide use. We can all reduce soil disturbance. And if you can do those things, you'll be happier. You'll have longer life out of those fields. You'll have more success. They'll be more drought tolerant. Although we were saying this year it's been so darn wet. But, those are things that really make a difference.
Last year, the plot where I killed 7 card, we did just a spray crimp. We sprayed it, dried it, spread my seed, crimped down the weeds because I had a really good thatch going. I had the summer. I can't remember. We planted some kind of green food plot seed in the spring. It was a domain blend, and there was just so much organic material, and the crimper just killed it, smashed it all down. And it worked pretty good. I want to say I ended up getting probably like 75 to 80% coverage in that field with food plot. There was a couple spots where like maybe the tractor tire did some damage where like there was just nothing grew up or whatever. But this year I did the opposite. So for the 7-card plot this year, we didn't plant anything in the spring. I let it just naturally grow back over the spring and the summer. It was actually, a lot of it was white clover that came back up. And then I went through, I did spray it. I did a quick spray on some of the taller, like there's mare's tail and shit in there. So I sprayed that, and then I let it sit for a week. And then I did till it this year. I don't think I tilled it the previous 2 years, maybe before that, but I did till it this year, and it's sitting up there tilled now. I was going to do another spray, a glyphosate spray on the weeds that popped up, but no weeds have popped up. So I think I'm just going to end up planting today, just to do a broadcast and then get my roller up there and actually plant it today. We're doing one of those poor man style plots today as well on a different farm. There's an area that was planted in brassicas and clover last fall. I think we used an ATV disc to tear it up. It was a first year food plot. So we cleared it with a bobcat and a mini and like went in and just opened up an old cattail swamp basically. And we did have to do a lot of spraying to kill those cattails at first. They're dead. They've been gone. It grew up the brassicas did not grow well last year in that first year in that plot. It was just very thin. It was not a good year the soil actually gets a lot of field runoff. So I don't know how it might actually be pretty fertile, but whenever we planted or when we planted, I think was last year a drought.
August was our driest year in Ohio.
So we planted in the fall, so we planted in August, and I think the drought just stunted the growth. Some did grow, it was thin, but we left it all spring, and it's thick thatch and stuff. So today we're going to go in, spray, dry, spread the seed, crimp it, just do the poor man plot that way. Pretty excited about that. I think it's going to turn out pretty good. We're going to oversee with some clover so that next spring, hopefully, if we can get on a mowing progress, if we can get on a good schedule mowing this plot, it should be really good next fall clover.
Oh, for sure.
That's the plan, at least. Other plots I planted at that farm that way have done well. So it has worked in the past, and we've gotten 3 or 4 years of really good clover stands doing it that way. So that's going to be my plan for today, kind of utilizing both the methods you just talked about, one with some tilling, one with zero tilling at all. We're just going to use the 4-wheelers to crisscross and push the seed in and bust it down.
I think that's another thing I would add that is a common mistake in food plotting. And again, if you're using Vitalize Seed, you're just planting soybeans, whatever it might be, is not putting an exclusion fence up. That is so critical. And I don't mean around the whole plot. Just a 3 foot diameter circle, because you can measure browse that way. And that's so important, because I can't tell you how many people will call and say, yeah, I don't have that many deer. You know, I don't think that's the issue for growth. I'm like, just do me a favor. Just put up an exclusion fence and they'll call and go, holy smokes. Like, it's a 2 foot difference, you know? And we had the worst drought 2 years ago in southeastern Ohio in, I think, 100 years. And then last August was the driest in like 120 years for just August. And I remember I planted this brand new field. I no-tilled, ran the no-till through really poor soil. It was an old pine stand that we sold the pines off of. And
worst soil you can imagine.
Oh, it on a ridge top. So, and it was a drought. So I'm like, and I kid you not, had I not had that exclusion fence, I would have just been like, oh, this soil's fertility is so bad that everything's only like an inch high.
Right.
Because like the cameras miss.
Yeah.
You know?
They do.
And I went over to the exclusion fence and I had radishes in there, even in a drought, that were probably radish. I mean, we call it our carbon load. There's 17 species in there. They were all probably 4 to 7 inches high inside that cage. And outside the cage, I'm talking like a 1/16 of an inch.
I'm glad you brought up the exclusion cages, because we have a bunch here at the farm that I haven't got in food plots yet. And I don't see any reason why I shouldn't put one in today on each one.
Yep.
Just to kind of keep an eye on it the old school the way. You know, we're going to have cameras on it and all that shit too, but the exclusion fence is a good idea, and I had kind of forgotten about that until you just brought it up, because we made
it's such a good thing to do. And even like on clovers, unless you have a really keen eye for getting down on your hands and knees and looking at the clover and the different types of clover and looking for browse, it's easy to just go, oh, it's growing really well. But what you don't see is like, oh my gosh, they took 2 foot off of that field.
Yep.
You know, and then of course that brings into, depending on your goals as a hunter or a landman, doe harvests and things like that. But it also tells you a lot about, is it soil fertility? You know, and also with annual mixes, should I bump up that seed rate, you know, not double, but like 20%, because I know that some of this stuff is going to get torn out of the ground right now because there's just a lot of deer or not enough food, or maybe it's a mixture of both.
We always joke. We brought up multiple times on the podcast. People are going to be like, oh, here they go again. We did a 2-acre soybean field one time. I put exclusion fences up. It was the soybeans inside the exclusion fence were beautiful, 3-4 feet high. Everywhere else completely failed. There was nothing left. Not one soybean plant was left outside the exclusion fence. We had turtles and squirrels and every creature that existed was just going through this soybean plot, because it was the only soybeans in the block that year. Everything else was corn. They killed it. They absolutely destroyed that plot. And I have never actually planted soybeans individually since because of that, because it was just such a fail. There was no way for me to stop the animals from eating them all. We've tried. I think we did try it again once when we had beans planted on the entire farm, and they still, the way the plot is located, it's where they would come out first. That plot is actually now clover, and I've only had to mow it 2 times this entire summer, and I don't know if I'll mow it again before season, because it's only this tall right now. Because there's 25 deer every single night in it, just laying down, browsing all night long. I mean, they can't keep up. So I'm going to leave it. I'll probably just let the deer keep it at the length it is. There's no point in mowing it again if it won't get above 6 inches. Let's let the deer. It originally was a chicory plot that I added clover to, and both they love it. They absolutely love it. For your fall plots, go through a couple rapid fire things real quick right here for the audience. If you're planning in a first year fall plot, what plants are you planting?
Well, I plant, like I mentioned, I mean, I'm biased because I designed the mix years ago, but before starting the company. So I plant our carbon load and everything. And the reason I do, other than designated areas where I have like our clover blend or something like that. But the reason is because it's, 55% mixed grains. So it's winter wheat, winter rye, triticale.
Okay.
So
that's a cool word to say.
And then some call it triticale. I don't know. I probably mispronounce it. And then we also do a little bit of oats.
Okay.
We keep the oat percentage lower on that particular mix. And people go, well, deer love oats. I go, they do.
Take over,
but like the problem I have with oats is that if I made that the majority of that mix, in most of the whitetails range, oats are going to winter kill at like your first hard frost. Even some of the more winter varieties aren't going to overwinter like a winter wheat, a triticale, or rye. So, in rye grain or cereal rye or winter rye, not ryegrass, just for anybody listening. We do add a little bit of buckwheat. Okay. And people go, why would you plant buckwheat in the fall? The reason is because it grows so easily, it grows so fast, it acts as a really nice nurse crop. We then pair that with 10% of that mix is in brassicas. So that comes out to be about 4.5 pounds of brassicas per acre, which if you think about it, because of all these other complementary species, you can't put a 6 to 8 pound rate of brassica. Well, 8 would be pretty heavy. You can't put 6 pounds of brassicas on an acre and all these other things. I just think it would be too complicated, again, unless some of the things we talked about. Yeah. Proximity to deer bedding, number of deer on the farm type of thing.
If you have 100 deer per square mile, you can plant whatever you want.
Right. Well, right. You can get a little bit higher on the planting. And then we get into all of our legumes. So some of those are going to be for attraction. So we have like Austrian winter peas, which of course are super attractive. Put on a ton of biomass if the deer don't eat them all. But they're very attractive early in the season. So you got like that oats, the buckwheat, kind of letting the grains and brassicas come up. Then on top of that, we do all of our annual clovers in there. So we use Balanza, Berseem, Crimson, Persian, which are just absolutely beautiful annual clovers. They come back the next spring. One of the most common calls I get in the spring is like, I absolutely love this carbon load. I thought I liked it for deer, but there's so many turkeys in it because of those annual clovers and bugging and everything. They're like, I think I like it better for spring turkey hunting. And I think we talked about it last time. I don't turkey hunt. Nothing against it. I just feel like I never have time.
Right.
But I love getting those calls and pictures of people like, I shot this in your carbon load plot.
That we talked at the beginning, we saw the baler go by or the mower for the alfalfa. Since we've added alfalfa to this farm, how many turkeys did we kill here in this block this year? I mean, we killed the shit out of turkeys
There
this
was
year.
4 killed in the block.
And there's
2 killed in the
and there
field.
was still plenty alive after that. I mean, the gobblers just like that green early spring alfalfa. They fucking loved it.
Oh yeah,
they absolutely.
And before the first cut, there was photos of turkeys in the field, and there was 3 or 4 different
sets of poults.
Yeah,
just rocking it.
That's great.
All different sizes, so you could tell them apart. It was pretty crazy.
That's really cool.
We love the turkey hunting, so it's beautiful for us.
Yeah, I mean, I really love annual clovers in with like brassicas or in with like our carbon load. We have a little bit of hairy vetch in there too. It's a really powerful legume for fixing nitrogen going into the next year. So one big thing we do at Vitalize Seed is focusing on what we call nutrient cycling. So it's not just about, planting for the fall, but also what's going to follow that, right? So a good analogy is like corn beans rotation.
Yep.
But we're trying to take that a little bit more aggressively because we're not harvesting this in most situations. I do have some growers we work with that actually do let their cattle graze it off.
Yeah.
So in that case, we do have to be, how much are they putting back versus how much it's going to the sale barn, right?
Right.
But in a lot of those situations, we're looking to complement that next planting as well. But yeah, our carbon load, the other thing I'll mention on that one, and with all of our brassica mixes is, right, wrong, or indifferent, we feel this is the best thing. I've grown up hunting in Ohio and have seen the deer populations go up, down, and sideways. And one of the things that it seems most people we talk to have more deer than they can plant food for.
Right.
And that's from Iowa to Texas to Maine. I mean, we have customers all over. We're really thankful for that. So what we try to do is always add forage quality species alongside kind of those more sexy common species, right? So the daikon radish, nitro radish, they have different names, but they're all essentially a daikon radish.
They look cool in the pictures.
Yeah. Or the purple top turnip, right?
Yep.
But what I always like to make sure is that we have some forage varieties as well. So if a leaf gets ate, that's made to then produce another leaf, right?
Right.
And some of that was developed in, Australia and different places, New Zealand.
Was that because of the rabbits taking over and everything was browsing their food down?
I don't actually know.
I think so rabbits are invasive there.
Interesting.
And it's because they got introduced by some of the settlers maybe in the 1800s. They didn't have a lot of their native browse didn't have a lot of predator. Or there was a good balance between what the native fauna and what the native browse was. They introduced rabbits. And they just eat and breed, and they had no way of stopping it. So that's probably why the regenerative leaf stuff was pioneered there, because they had to do something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it'd be all gone.
Yeah.
Side history note for people.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I know a lot of this has been, there's a lot developed out west as well.
Yeah.
And a lot grown at least. But it's just an interesting thing because similarly, like in our spring mix, we call Nitro Boost, right? Well, we have things in there intentionally to hope that the deer don't eat it. sorghum, Sudan, just to put on a whole bunch of biomass. So you have that mat to lay over if you're going to till it under, it becomes more of a quicker release versus a mat slow release. But we also use forage beans. And again, because like to your saying is the deer can eat them and then they'll keep producing leaves. And that's a big deal for a lot of deer hunters because the average guy is probably doing in the deer hunting space, a 1/4 acre to a 1/2 acre plot.
Right. Yeah.
So you got to really decide, what do I want to add? So we think we're really proud of having those type of varieties in our mix. And I think it does set us apart from just, hey, here's a purple top or here's a radish.
Right.
Those are great, but having that mixture of there, we're big on diversity. So even within the categories, we don't just say, hey, we have annual clover and we put one. We want, 5 or 6.
Yep.
So that's like grains too. We don't just want rye grain. We want rye, triticale, all these other ones. So that's really kind of what we do and what we plant. And we plant it, like I said, through a drill. I planted some with a Scott's push spreader the other day. I knew we had rain coming. I went in, I sprayed it off, and I went down with a Scott's push spreader. And I've done that year after year on this particular piece. And I'll grow, great looking turnips, great looking radishes, great looking forage tops. A lot of those are like mixtures of kale and turnips, essentially. They're like hybrids. And they look great and the deer love them.
We've already covered this a little bit. What's the biggest mistake that you see people make? And you already kind of touched on with the herbicides, but what is something that people do every year where you're just like, if I could get this information out there so people stop doing it, life would be easier?
There's a couple. There's a few. The one is exclusion fences. I would say that's probably the biggest one because you don't know what you don't know. Not soil testing can be a big one too. I have had people who go, I had one guy in Missouri, he had 2 farms. He could grow everything on this one farm. He's like, I look like the best farmer in the world. He could not figure out why this other farm, particularly this one field, he couldn't grow anything. So finally, we took a soil test. Long story long, I sat down with a friend of mine at Ward Labs who we've partnered with. He's a PhD soil chemist, pretty smart dude.
Smart guy.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm struggling, like why, what is happening? Like the organic matter, everything looks good. And we finally came over to the last column on what's called the base saturation of your soil. And we noticed the sodium, and it just had slipped by me. But the sodium percentage on that particular test, it was really high. So we ended up recommending him go in there with a ripper and putting gypsum in to flush that out of the soil. And then he was able to correct that. Had he not taken that $25 soil test, he'd probably still be like, why is nothing? It got to a level of toxicity. So I think that's another big mistake is not soil testing. Just totally blind fertilizer applications. That can also be pretty common. When you put down 13 or 19 specifically without tillage, you have to understand nitrogen moves right now in most synthetic fertilizers. Phosphorus doesn't move at all. And potassium somewhere in between relative to your soil type. So how could you put all 3 down at the same time? Like if that was that easy, then every farmer in America would do it. But there's a reason that one of the fastest growing, I shouldn't say that with such definitiveness, but one of the big areas growing in farming is precision agriculture.
Yeah, the drone spraying.
Drone, but also like on the planters themselves.
Yeah, micro.
I have a good friend of mine. He's an agronomist.
And they call it side dressing.
Yeah, exactly. The placement in not only on a whole field, but they're breaking it down to the acre now to where that planter can say, hey, this particular acre might need more phosphorus, but they're putting the phosphorus in 2x2 so that those roots can get to it. There was a famous farmer out of Illinois. It's a short story, I promise, but I think people find this interesting. He had been he was a no-tiller. He didn't use cover crops, so that's important. But he no-tilled this field for years and years and years and years, and he noticed his yields were going like this, dropping. It's like, what is going on? So he took a soil probe. So what he did in this area, this was very common. He'd harvest his corn, he'd bring the co-op out, and they'd spread P and K only, because obviously you put nitrogen down in the fall, it's going to be gone. So only P and K, only P and K. Now, central Illinois, pretty heavy soils. Good organic matter, good fertility, but they're not like a sandy Daytona Beach soil. They're pretty heavy soils. He took a soil probe, or several of them, and he broke them into like top 2 inches, top 3 inches. It was something like 60 or 80% over 15 years of that P and K was still in the top 2 inches of the soil.
So it's because he wasn't tilling ever.
Because he was never tilling it in, and he wasn't using cover crops to have. So with cover crops, what you would likely have is some roots, especially if you're flying them out like with a drone or something, are going to get that. They're going to take up that P and K because P gets really immobilized with like metals in your soil, so aluminum, things like that, it'll just lock up. And it can really only get solubilized through root exudation or biological activity. But with cover crops, it takes those up. Now you have this radish here. Well, it dies, either herbicide or whatever. Well, as it dies, worms and microbes eat that and they move that through the soil naturally, right? Or the plant itself translocates some of the nutrients because some needs it down here and so on and so forth. So what he ended up doing was actually going to tillage for like a year and then right back into a no-till. And he recorded it all. His yields took a huge leap because, of course, he had 15 years of P&K that he put right down there, and that corn could get there.
What's P&K?
Phosphorus and potassium.
Okay.
Yeah.
You took anatomy and physiology. You should know these things.
Yeah, but no.
but that's some, and that's a good question. I'm sorry, I should have been more clear on that.
No, we know what it is, but I guess the audience wouldn't know what it is. So.
No, that's a good point, and that's a big mistake I see people make because everyone's like, well, if I want to buy and we sell an organic fertilizer, but there's other options out there, and I'll say to people, if you're going into no-till, yes, organic's more money, but are you much more efficient in how it's going to move? Because if you're spreading a pellet, like we call it no-till nurture for the reason because it's NPK and it's derived from manure, but it's spreadable.
Right.
I can spread it with a Scott's push. It has no smell to it either, the way that it's cured. So like I can spread it on my front lawn with a Scott's spreader because how am I going to get P&K on a fescue lawn into the root zone?
Right.
So we sell a ton of it in lawn care for that reason. But you have to look, you go, well, I could buy 1 bag of yours or I could buy 3 bags of this 13. Well, that's a kind of a common mistake, I think, if you're, especially in no-till. Now, if you're tilling, put that NPK down, 13, 19, till it in, fit your ground, roll your ground, get it, especially like for brassicas and smaller, then seed and roll it again, and you'll be super happy. But with so many people moving towards no-till or poor man food plots or whatever you want to call them, I think that's another pretty common mistake.
You can't get it deep enough in to do what you want to do.
Right.
It's just sit on the surface. Yeah,
you're trying to apply all 3 things in one's a race car and the other so they're trying to do different, they're totally different modes of action in how they move through that soil.
My last one before I let you get to the drone survey. We will talk about the drone survey.
All right.
We're going to do it today. My last question, though, you might not even answer it. Who should we avoid? Because I know you're in the industry. I know you got competition. I know you have partners. Is there a food plot seed out there that people are buying that you're just like, listen, guys, if you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but if you're going to be doing this stuff, you don't have to buy from me, but please do not buy this.
Yeah. I wouldn't ever say a company name out, specifically, but I do think there are some things to be aware of. So you'll see a lot of internet guys on there. I don't know, internet experts is probably passive aggressive, but they'll say things like, "Oh, buying seed, I can go buy it from my farmer directly and straight out the bin, and that's so cheap or whatever." And I've had guys say that. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I can't sell straight out of the bin soybeans to you. I have to sell cleaned, certified seed.
Right.
So what I end up having people do is they'll say, yeah, I planted so-and-so soybeans, I got out of the grain bin or rye grain or something. And then the next year they go, the field's loaded with mare's tail. I'm like, well, yeah, because whatever they harvested that combine.
It's all in there too.
Yeah. So that's a pretty big one is like you do, get what you pay for in a sense. Like if you're buying from a reputable brand. The other thing is if you're buying at like a big box store, read the label because a lot of times you can buy a mix that seems like the price is attractive, but then you're like, wait, this is like 1/8 of an acre and 90% of it's rye grass.
Right.
So there's a lot of mixes out there that are sold to kind of like
stuff that you throw and then it grows.
Yes. Hey, it can grow anywhere. And that's maybe okay in the right circumstance of like erosion control around a pond or something, right? Like maybe that would be a good, but that's not really attractive for whitetail. Again, like I would rather see somebody learn safely how to run a chainsaw and do flush cuts, hinge cuts, take care of invasive species. You're going to kill more deer and have more attraction doing that type of work and funneling deer by a stand than trying to throw ryegrass out there and thinking a 160 is going to walk in eating ryegrass. Like it ain't going to happen.
Right.
If they did, they'd be in, it's like, why do you drive through Southern Ohio and all these cow pastures? You don't really see a lot of deer out in them.
Right.
Because they're all cool season grasses. Yeah. Fescue, ryegrass, orchard grass. You might see a deer once in a while picking out some clover that's got, but most of the time, they're not an overly attractive area.
Right.
So that's where I would say really makes the big difference, and also when you're looking at seeds or mixes, look at the species that are in them and then ask yourself, what is the maturity rate of that species? Because sometimes, like, I could throw in, a sugar beet in my brassica mix, and that sounds really good. That's kind of like a sexy, like, oh, deer love sugar beets, right? Even though most people haven't grown up in an area, like, at least some people in Michigan maybe, but like I've never.
It's a big thing in Michigan. For some reason, Michigan people love the sugar.
They grow a ton of them, like, commercially, but like I've never
right.
even seen a sugar beet in my life, or a field of sugar beets in Ohio. And, but like that has a very long period to grow. Another one I don't like is like sunflowers. Guys will put sunflowers sometimes or soybeans in fall plots. Now you can make a sound argument like it's that early season attraction, and I kind of get that.
If you plant it early enough.
But what I don't like is you're planting summertime annuals, and even in best case scenario, they're going to get like 4 to 6 inches tall. Maybe 12 inches tall if you have like no deer or you plant a ton of it, and then they're going to die.
Yeah, it's a waste of time.
So you're like, well, yeah, the deer came in there and they ate, but now, like, I plant food. Yes, I want to kill deer over them, but I also want to feed the deer all from the time I plant it clear to when I decide I'm going to terminate it.
Yeah.
So those are things that, right, wrong, or indifferent, I think you should just be aware of what you're buying and what it does. And maturity dates can get a little bit silly because you're not, like, winter wheat might say 240 days. Well, that's to harvest, but that it's going to do well.
It'll be palatable way before that.
Yes. Like, within
it's
2
actually
weeks.
way more palatable earlier than 240.
Than when you're harvesting with a combine.
Yeah, they're not even eating it at the 240.
Right. So another way, instead of saying maturity, I think I should have said, like, look at the type of species. Like, is it a warm season annual?
Right.
Or in the case of a sugar beet, again, maybe somebody's done it in the fall, but everything I've ever read is like they're such a slow grower that who's the guy you guys had on from Iowa?
Skip.
He just did a cool video where he fenced in a hot fence and he did like a big field of sugar beets, but he's been showing he planted it like in May, like the same time he was planting soybeans. And now he has these sugar beets. Like, obviously the guy knows how to grow stuff. He's a really good farmer, but I mean, he has these sugar beets are huge. You ain't going to get those. You plant them tomorrow. No. You know what I mean? So those are little things to just kind of keep an eye out.
We're a month away from the season. We're going to be hunting in a month.
Right.
We need things to grow in the next 3 weeks.
Right. And that's why I think, our carbon load is a lot of species, but it's simple. Our brassica and annual clover mix, they're pretty simple overall.
That's why I went with what I chose because it's simple. I know how to grow it,
and I like this mix because we sell individualized mixes, obviously, because, well, people ask for it,
And the one plot I'm doing is another very first year plot too. I mean, it was yard before this. It's my backyard, my property. It's never been planted in anything. I want something to get in there, have some organic matter, break up the soil, and we'll start this process next spring.
And that's why
we're starting it now, but we will continue this process next spring.
And I love adding a little bit of a legume to a brassica, just such a complementary mix. And I also think too, like, if you're going to do the annual route, you did a really good job because you picked your brassica and your annual mix, versus sometimes guys will order this and then and I try to catch it. They'll order like this in a bag of premium clover. And sometimes I'll even call the customer. I go, hey, I just want to make sure that premium clover is a perennial. Are you going to mix those? And that's fine as long as you want that particular plot to stay in perennial clover. Because if not, you're going to be terminating a kind of an expensive crop to grow. Aberlasting clover, Ladino clovers are not a cheaper seed.
Right.
So that's another thing that I would say, keep in mind of what you're planting and what's in them. If you want an annual mix, get an annual mix. We have a little chicory that's probably the only perennial that's in our carbon load. And just because, it does so well in droughts and deer just love it. And it's
we've been saved during drought times by the chicory.
Yeah.
We started doing a lot of chicory 2 or 3 years ago, and it has saved our drought times because there's always still some green tonnage in the food.
You never realize how much deer love it too until you look to those exclusion fences. I had chicory that was actually flowering out.
If they see it in the springtime, they'll over the winter and the next spring. I've noticed if you don't get it quick enough, blue flower, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
But inside the plot, I can hardly even find chicory.
It gets real stemmy and woody. That flower, that middle stem will come up, and it's like it's a tough little bastard to kill.
And you'll see wild chicory a lot of times in road banks.
Yeah, we have a ton of wild chicory here, but
yeah.
All right, I'll give you 10 minutes to talk about your drone survey.
So, I think it's interesting. At least you guys cover so many great topics, and what I did is, if it's not clear now, I'm pretty nerdy. I'm pretty into the details. So we do a ton of TSI on the farm. And this kind of started with, we did about a 20-acre bottom through Equip. And there was a lot of beach. And next to that, it was about 17 acres. And then next to it was a 6-acre mid-story removal. So you're basically going in there. There's a bunch of chestnut oaks. And below that in the mid-story is soft maple, some red maple, and beech primarily. A little bit of hickory. And
not good for deer.
Not great for deer, right? And the goal is to flush cut everything in that 6-acre area adjacent to the 17, which that was just coal tree. So like a crooked oak, the forester marks it, you go in and fell it, soft maple, you fell it and just move on to the next one. So it's not as aggressive as the mid-story removal. Anyhow, the forester was like, hey, when you do this for Equip, you really need to carry a backpack sprayer of herbicide, triclopyr and diesel fuel and a little bit of blue dye, and spray the stump because deer don't eat beech stumps, Caleb.
Yeah.
Well, I'm like, let's just give it a shot because I really don't feel like running a, MS-261 on the side of a hill and chaps. I'm wearing a helmet and carrying a 4-gallon backpack spray. I'm like, I'm going to die.
Right.
Like, it's
a lot of work.
So I just ran the saw as hard as I could for as long as I could. And I didn't treat the stump. I was planning to go back and I just didn't. Well, then when I went back and we kind of wanted to see if I passed it, we walked the area and every beech stump was absolutely demolished by deer. Some to the point of not even regrowing. Some were in the forester. She goes, holy shit. She's like, you have a lot of deer.
Right.
Now I'm pretty observant. So I'm taking photographs of this. I'm watching this. I'm looking at greenbrier or smilax, as some people might call it, the thickness of it. I mean, is it as thick as my finger? These deer are eating it. Like that tends to be a sign.
Right.
Then I'm looking at exclusion fences on the farm. Right. And I'm like, okay, there's a huge difference here.
Right.
So then I start running trail cameras and I'm like, I got to do a study here. Before these drones come out, I want to run trail cameras from 4 to 6 p.m., so huntable hours. And I felt like I had to set a time period because if not, how would I now know if it's not the same deer just coming back through all night? So I said 4 to 6. I put bait out in some cameras just over field edges, and I counted. And I came up with something like after 17 nights, I did it, and then I stopped, and I took the averages. I recorded everything. And I came up with like, okay, the average per night was like 14 and a half does.
Okay.
And I figured half
the best that you could.
The best I could do. Like there was one night, I think I counted, 22 individual deer and then between multiple cameras. And then on the lowest night, I think was like 7 or 8 in that time period. Right. And I did try to be conservative. If 2 cameras were close, I'd say, hey, I'm not going to double count. Like if there were 3 deer here and then 20 minutes later they're here, I'm like, that could be different.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right.
So I wouldn't double count them. So I said, okay, 14 and a half. I'm like, well, I've seen studies out there on this. And I'm like, I think it's something like 50%. So I said, let's double that. So let's just say there's 30 does and let's say half bucks too.
Yeah.
So that puts us at what, like 45 deer?
Yeah, 45 per square mile.
45 on 400 acres.
400 acres.
So not quite.
Slightly smaller than square mile.
So 45 deer on 4. And now that's doubling what I did for 17 nights straight on corn. Nobody was hunting. Like there was no pressure. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to have this drone survey guy come out. And he did. Him and his buddy, actually, they took 2 drones just to speed it up a little bit. And
how much of your 400 is open?
Very little.
Okay. So
it's
a lot of woods and then.
It's eastern. It's like 90% wood.
Okay.
Now like I said, I don't know if it, as a percentage basis, it's not even 10%. I mean, we'd have to do 40 acres in food plots to be 10% open. So we do like 20.
Okay.
So, actually a little less than that. But so the guy comes out, he flies it with his buddy. He sends me the numbers. I thought it was a typo. He goes, hey, just so you know, we found 85 deer on 400 acres. 71 were antlerless. So if you
what time of year was this?
Oh, I should know this. I want to say it was.
Was there leaves on the trees?
No.
Okay.
No, it was.
That's okay. That's all.
Deer, bucks still had antlers. It was like
so we're talking January, February.
Last week of January, maybe.
Okay.
Because I was trying to wait till season ended, but I'm like, I don't want all the deer to shed.
They start shedding early.
Ethan,
do deer shed antlers early during the season?
They sure do.
So anyhow, I thought that was really interesting because if you extrapolate that out, that additional 240 acres, on top of the 400 to
You're
the
over
square
100.
mile.
You're
You're at like 131 deer per square mile. So then I did factor in, I'm like, well, let's just use a plus minus variance of like, say, 20%. Well, you're still between like 105 on the low end. And I never would have guessed that. If you put a gun to my head and said, how many deer, I would have never, I was off by almost 2 times, even after doubling what I thought my trail camera and everything observations were.
Yeah, we talk about it a lot among, like, me and my brothers and our friends amongst ourselves. Like last night, for example, after all that rain came, last night's a perfect example. After all that rain came through last night, crazy rain during the day, like in the afternoon, 4, 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night, it was nice and cool here. The fields were wet. Every camera that was on an open field had 10 deer on it.
Yeah.
And they were spread, and I have cameras on, 5 different, there was 30 or 40 deer on camera at the same moment.
Visible.
Wow.
At the same time last night. And
Yeah.
that's just, and our farm's only 126 acres with only 30-ish of it open.
That was all within 300 yards of where you're sitting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's like, I'm scared to know what our deer numbers might actually be here if we had that many on trail camera. And there were some bucks missing. A lot of there were some shooter bucks that we saw that we can identify this time of year. But there were some mature deer and stuff that weren't on camera, so I can add them to it. And I'm a drone survey after the season to see how many deer are living here. I might go through with that this year because it's not going to affect the hunting. It's not going to affect, the whatever you want to call it, the ethics of having a drone flying during the season. I'll do it when the season ends because I'm very curious.
Yeah. I think that's one of the best management tools out there. And I think that I'm a big proponent that ODNR considers DMAP at some point. I think that
I've talked to Mike Rex about that. I mean, how can you possibly have my area be under the same rules as somewhere 10 miles down the road that has no deer, very little deer per square mile. But when I have 100 plus and this place has 20,
right.
But we're following the same rules. That's not right.
Well, especially in private land areas, right? Because the turnover isn't that great in land and in areas. So if you have 150 acres here and that, Miss Sally owns the next 200 acres, she doesn't let hunting, nobody shoots does over there or whatever, but maybe the guy down the road, he's surrounded by deer hunters and they're killing a ton. So I've been a big proponent of the ODNR wants more does killed, but here you can shoot 2 does? 2.
That's it. We've said it over and over and over.
And it's
again.
I
can only shoot 2 does in this entire county. So my farm, if I shoot them both here, I can't do anything in my house. I can't do anything in my buddy's house. Can't do anything in my neighbor's farm, my buddy's farm. I can't help him in any way.
So I talked to Mike briefly about this, and I think he was in agreement. It was on that Ohio Whitetail group page.
He's very active, that Ohio Whitetail.
He does a good job. He puts himself out there, and he doesn't have to do that.
We've said that. Yeah,
and I appreciate that. And what I said to him is I think, not to get off too much of a tangent here, but I think that there is a huge problem when you only give somebody 2 doe tags. For me, if I knew I could get 5, 6, 7, 8 doe tags, 10, whatever, first doe that walks out opening day, shooting her. And I know I need to shoot does, but there's always this feeling of I don't want to be out of tags.
Right. I like to save one for gun season.
Yes.
I like to have one late season.
Yes.
And if it's 87 degrees outside, I don't want to burn it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
if I knew I could get more tags, I would certainly be oh, well, but what ends up happening, and I think this happens to other people, is you think, I'm going to save it for gun. Life gets in the way.
Right.
Kids get sick,
yep.
Whatever. And all of a sudden you don't use it and time goes by.
Right.
And now you're I shot my buck opening day.
I didn't shoot a doe last year.
And then
I'm that guy.
Well, I didn't either.
Because I shot a doe. I shot a buck opening day.
I did.
I shot one before that in Kentucky. So did I need an extra doe in my freezer in October? Nope. I got 2 bucks in there right now. And then time goes on and busy and this and that. And I'm filming my buddies. And when you're filming your buddies, you're not shooting does.
Yep.
Then you film your buddies all the way up till the bell. And you're like, damn, I didn't shoot a doe. I tried to shoot one the last day. It didn't work.
I had a couple.
Long story.
It was button puck.
And it didn't die.
Yeah.
I don't think. Maybe.
Yeah. No, it didn't die.
I had very similar last year. And that's why I'm kind of the pot calling kettle black. But I do think could be something done in these areas that are high deer density. The ODNR just flew the EHD area.
Yeah, and they said there's plenty of deer.
Did you see there was a couple pockets where there's not many, but in some areas,
right, the whole Washington County as a whole is fine.
or like megs too. Like I think eastern megs got hit really hard, but they're saying in western megs, some of those areas came over 60 deer per square mile.
Yeah.
And
that's plenty.
Right. And there's probably pockets within that area that they did that is even higher than that, but that's just the average over like a whole township. So, and I think that was what got Mike going, is like, how can we do this better? Well, Mike, I don't know what the answer is, but I do think smaller zones would make sense.
Yeah. And it's just that we've had a lot of conversations amongst ourselves in this podcast about what we can do to make some of these things better. The problem I have is the ODNR is extremely understaffed, and anything that they try to implement will require man hours.
Yeah.
Right. So it'll require someone to dissect where the deer are by flying a drone or flying their helicopter or their plane to do studies, and they can only study a couple townships a night, if that, and they're not going to work 20 nights in a row because they're working at night.
Yeah.
There's man hours and costs for this if they're going to rely on their own data that are just astronomical.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. If they take Hunter's word for it, they never will do that. They'll never just take our word and say, listen, I promise you, here's the trail camera pictures. Here's a photo of me and my tree stand with 38 does at a corn pile. I promise you we have a ton of deer. They're not going to do that. They're going to want to study it themselves. And they don't have the time or the money to study all the areas. So I think that's why it hasn't happened.
With these drones though, I mean, you could contract out.
You could, and that would speed it up.
And I think that's what you would have to potentially do. And then also, I would pay an extra $25 a year for a license if I knew it's going towards more accurate densities.
Yeah, and we're unfortunately we're in the minority there, because I would pay more too. I tagged my buck last year. Didn't have to.
Right.
It was on private property that we own. I didn't have to tag my buck, but I did, because I can't. I mean, I shouldn't say it that way, because people are like, wait, you don't tag your bucks. I actually paid for my tag and didn't use a landowner, because I can only do 3 in Medina County anyway. So what's an additional $29? What is it? $29?
Yeah,
I spent the money for the stat, and to help the resource. I spent the money. The money's not that big of an issue to me. Now, there are a lot of people listening to this podcast that might not be as well off as we are, and or elderly fixed income hunters, and there's different costs for them involved anyways, but they're not going to want to spend extra money to help figure out a deer herd population problem. But I would, and you would,
Well, I think it also comes into, a lot of people are, they're gun shy about any government spending, because they don't feel confident.
It's sexy right now to say that everything's bullshit and that they're corrupt and not being used right.
But if you knew,
a lot of miseducation.
If you absolutely knew without a doubt, and they said you can pay $5 more, even if it's an option, and once we get to a certain amount, we are going to be able to do drone surveys on every county in Ohio.
And you might gain 6 deer tags.
Right.
It might benefit you, immensely.
And you don't have to buy all 6.
Right.
Like you just have, Township A, we need to shoot 60 does in that township. And you just give people the option.
Right.
You can buy 2 per day.
I might end up buying 12 because no one else is.
Right.
If you're the first person and you can just go through and lay waste, it's a hobby of yours. It's not hurting anybody.
And that's another comment I've said to people before on podcasts and stuff, is like, anybody who's deer hunted knows that certain nights are just flat better.
Yeah.
Ooh,
the pressure, you get that cold snap, the pressure's good, the dew point's right, the wind's in the right direction, you see 50 deer. And it's just incredible. It just keeps coming.
Yeah.
They keep coming.
And you could sit there on those nights if you had tag and go,
kill one at 4
with a bow.
Kill one at 5:15.
Yes.
Kill one at 6.
Yeah.
Then other ones are getting curious because it stinks like blood over here. So you're getting more opportunities because the deer are coming in smelling around. Yeah. I mean,
and
you can just lay waste.
In the idea of like, well, just bring more people. It's like, how that goes. Like,
I don't, that's a lot of farmers. That's what, like, well, you guys, we've always let you hunt and you've done a good job, but you're just not killing enough deer. So I'm going to let more guys in here. Well, guess what? No one kills any deer then, because everyone's trampling on each other. No one's coordinating anything. People are coming in. You're expecting to hunt this field corner. The wind's perfect. The guy comes in the opposite way, fucks your hunt up. No one kills deer. The farmer gets even more mad.
Yeah.
How common is that?
Yeah.
So
I
agree with you 100%. More hunters on our property doesn't necessarily fix any of the problems.
No. And like I said, I bring my cousin. Like, that's why I didn't shoot a doe last year, because during gun season he's only he was like 15. So he wasn't quite ready to be by himself,
right?
And he was using my rifle, so I was taking him, and we did get a doe together, which was really awesome and stuff. But it's like, that doesn't always work out. He's come and hunted before, and all of a sudden, rain front like you got last night comes in, or anything that happens in the deer woods that you're like, oh, well, that sucks.
It gets hot.
Yeah.
Simply gets hot.
Yeah.
They're just
the deer
not moving
shut
until
off.
the very last moment. And
yeah. And you're like, oh, well, now we're not able to kill deer and he has school or, so I think it seems like the big thing everyone keeps going to is a lot of Ohio is not killing enough does. So regardless of all the other topics you want to talk about high grading bucks, and if that's truly the case, I don't understand why we can't do something to help property owners specifically, not talking public land. I don't have a dog in that fight, but to kill more does.
So and our buddy Jay, Uncle Jay, who's on here a lot, very opinionated about some of this stuff, has done a lot of research and numbers. He believes that the number one reason why, a major factor in that, he believes, is the fact that we have so many non-residents who are coming in to kill a good buck or hunting at a lease or outfitters that they're not shooting doe. So we have a large group of people coming in, spending money, because the ODNR loves it. They spend 40% of the budget's made up of non-residents spending money. And they keep reminding us of that. But those guys aren't shooting any does at all. There are some that do. People come in for gun season, they kill some does. I get that. There's deer drives, people from Pennsylvania coming in to fill their tags. All that stuff does happen. And I know there's some numbers that might disagree with me a little bit, but I think a majority of those guys coming in are trophy hunting, and that's why they're here. Mm-hmm. They're here because they're trophy hunting. They're coming from Pennsylvania or West Virginia where they can kill plenty of does.
Yeah.
And they're coming in here to trophy hunt, and they don't. They're solely here to kill a buck. Then you have people like us that are also trying to kill big bucks. We have killed lots and lots of does in our day. Lots of does. And I just did a bad job of killing them last year. I will do a better job this year. The middle ground isn't there. There's not a lot of people that are killing does like we are normally in Ohio because it costs so much money to process them, to butcher them, to store them, to the work involved. I just think your average hunter is out after a buck. And I think that contributes to why they don't kill 3 does. They might kill 1. But people aren't filling their quotas. It's like 80% only kill 1 deer in Ohio. Yeah. There's some crazy number. Like the extra deer are only being killed by like 18% of the hunters or something. It's something like
that. So to me, it's like, okay, if you use the standard 80-20 rule, then take that smaller percentage of guys who's already shown that they want to fill their tags.
Let me kill even more.
Why not let them shoot more? Because you're not going to probably change the other guys.
No.
Right? Like I have a good friend.
All of a sudden you're not going to be like, I want to kill 10 deer this year after you've killed 1 or 0 for the last.
The guys
10
coming
years.
from North Carolina.
Yeah.
They have more deer.
They're not going to transport that meat.
Stick at. They want to shoot a 170s.
Correct.
They have a huge deer lease somewhere. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but then for the guy who owns the 100 acres next to this guy's big deer lease, and the farmer can't grow soybeans, or he can't even grow a food plot because there's so many does.
And during the rut, all the bucks are over there because they have 47 does eating in their plots.
Yeah.
The bucks are coming through yours, but they're just, it does create some disparity, and that's why what we talk about exists.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it 100 times that we have amazing neighbors, but in the years I've known it, I added it up one time, it was like 650 acres. In 10 years, I think they've probably killed less than 5 does on that.
Yeah, that's it.
And they're great people. They're not, they've shot some great deer. I mean, great bucks, but like it's been a decade or more. I don't see them all of a sudden going, hey, we're going to do a deer drive and shoot 17 deer, or does. They're just not going to.
Right.
They want to shoot a big mature deer. They might shoot a doe or 2 on 500-600 acres. Mm-hmm. That's it. We're past the point in a lot of Ohio, unless you get these EHD outbreaks. I think, and private land in Ohio, and a majority of it at least, we are past the point of shooting a doe here and there is going to do anything.
Right. We need major change in regulations in certain areas to bring the numbers where they need to be.
Yeah.
And I don't like how they, we'll finish with this tangent. I don't like how the cities and some of these more urban type areas have figured out that the way to solve their problem is to just snipe them at night with the SWAT teams and with the calling teams.
I agree.
And those companies, because why not give us the opportunity?
I agree.
Why not give us the opportunity? We're gonna get Mike Rex on here in October. So.
Oh man, he's a wealth of knowledge, and We're
going to talk about these things ad nauseum that night.
Yeah, I'm excited to listen to him.
He wants to come in studio too. So.
Oh really?
Yeah, we're gonna have him here. We're gonna have him in studio here in front of us. We'll sit him down and do two camera angles, and
I'll run one of the cameras.
We will hash it. We will hash it all. There'll be like 14 people in that other room watching through the doorway.
You just hear.
There'll be a lot of that going on that night.
Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, that's going to be something that we talk about with Mike in October ad nauseum, and it's going to be fun.
I think it's great that he puts himself out there. I really appreciate that about Mike. I have other friends who are game wardens and stuff, and they're the same. I mean, they'll talk and talk and talk about, and they do paint a picture because it's easy to sit here and go, oh, this is so easy. But then to your point, like you said earlier, like they'll go, well, who's going to run that? Even if you aggregate all the data, who's going to analyze it?
Right. You have to hire someone who knows what they're doing, a scientist and a mathematician to actually divulge all this information and break it down properly. You can't have people like me saying, see, I told you. Like we'd be biased.
Yeah, of course.
It wouldn't work that way. You got to have a professional who doesn't know anything about deer, run numbers. And
tell, hey, here's what it comes out to be. Yep. Yeah, I agree. Well, this was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a perfect ending point. I mean, I loved it.
Yeah,
it was good. It was
good conversation.
Good. I'm itching to get in the woods right now.
Go get some stuff. Go get some stuff done, man.
It's gonna be fun.
I'll get out of your hair.
No, it's
camera's about to die.
Is the camera dying?
Yeah.
Oh, it's blinking.
Perfect timing.
Perfect time. Thank you. We appreciate you coming on, Al.
Thank you guys so much.
As always, a good time. We'll get you on again just to talk about killing deer sometime.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we have something to talk about.
Yeah, we won't talk about food plots. We'll talk about killing deer.
Yeah.
Deer Stuff Podcast, episode 152.
We are out.
Peace.
Thank you.